If you like my video, please consider supporting me on Patreon or subscribing. Thank you.
Let's go, Mr. Driver!
Chase HQ. If there was ever a desert island arcade racing game that I would pick, this would be it. So what happens when you combine the fast and furious action of Miami Vice with the technology from the arcade game Outrun? You get an action-packed classic arcade racing game. What is the link between this game and the residents of Springfield? So let's go, Mr. Driver. Let's investigate the history of Chase HQ. The year is 1988. Hiroguchi Sako wanted to create another racing game, only this time with a twist. In the mid-1980s, Taito was on a string of successful arcade releases. Arkanoid, Rastan, Bobble, Renegade, and Double Dragon are just a few of the Taito arcade classics. Fresh off of creating the arcade racer Full Throttle, where he first implemented the turbo button, you can see he was already planning his next game. All you have to do is look at the billboards in this game. That's Crockett and Tubbs from Miami Vice, thus setting up Chase HQ. Taking inspiration from his favorite American TV show Miami Vice, you play the role of Tony Gibson along with his partner Raymond Brody as they try to put away 5 of America's Most Wanted. Instead of a standard checkpoint racer, Chase HQ is split into 2 halves. You have 60 seconds to catch up to the criminal, and if you are successful, you have another 60 seconds to ram his car off the road. You also have 3 turbo boosts to aid you in your mission. Your weapon of choice is the Porsche 962, which does a fine job of keeping up with those nefarious criminals and the sports cars they drive. Nancy from Chase HQ is here to give you the rundown before each of the 5 levels.
Nancy at State's headquarters. We've got an emergency here. Ralph, Idaho's partner, is fleeing towards the suburb. The target vehicle is a white British sports car. Over.
Gotcha, Nancy.
Once the racing starts, it's fast and furious. You also have to make sure you pick the right path, otherwise it takes longer to reach the checkpoint. If you are too slow or hit too many obstacles, you will run out of time and it's game over. Once you disable their vehicle, you pull over the offending perp and slap the cuffs on them.
Okay. You're under arrest on suspicion of first-degree murder.
If you manage to defeat all 5 criminals, you save the day and are rewarded handsomely.
Okay. You're under arrest on suspicion of espionage and first-degree murder.
This is Chase Special Investigation Chief, Amos. I want to congratulate you on a great job. I hereby record your heroism and remember it for a long time to come. For completing 5 missions without a flaw, bless you, Perfect Chaser.
Now let's talk about those conversions. Let's get the crap out of the way first and foremost. Everyone who is a fan of this channel knows how much I love my Commodore 64. I've used this meme a few times, but there's no other way to say it. This is the worst Commodore games ever. The color looks like somebody puked pea soup all over my screen. It also seems to be running at about 3 frames per second. Next up is the Spectrum port. Now I know what you're thinking. The sound is terrible. The graphics are horrible. But you know what? It actually plays like Chase HQ. The sprites are large and detailed, and the speed is really good. Rounding out the 8-bits is the Amstrad version, one of the best arcade-to-home conversions on any platform. Large detailed sprites, excellent playability, and fast speed makes this one of the best home versions of Chase HQ. Now when this version first came out, a lot of people didn't like it, but I thought they did a fine job. The hill effects are present, excellent graphics and sound, and playability is there too. Next we have the NES version. Looking like a poor man's Rad Racer, this game was so poor that it wasn't even released outside of Japan. Now take everything you learned about the NES version and imagine playing it on a 1950s black and white TV, and you'll have the Game Boy version in a nutshell. And finally, wrapping up the console ports is the TurboGrafx 16 version. This is probably one of the best home console ports of this game. Big detailed sprites, good sound, and excellent playability. Now even though the arcade version was inspired by Miami Vice, the home computer ports were not. Instead of Crockett and Tubbs, we have these two fellows. Do they look familiar? So what is the connection between The Simpsons and Chase HQ? When original cast member Hank Azaria was trying to figure out the voice for Lou the Cop, he decided to take inspiration from Raymond Brody. Just listen to how similar these voices sound.
Well, boys, now it's our turn.
It's always made me feel like a man, you know? Now all I got is my enormous genitals.
Okay. You're under arrest on suspicion of first-degree murder.
The following year, Special Criminal Investigation, or SCI, was released. This time, the boys are back and they have a gun. Lots of car-ramming goodness is to be found. '89 brought us not one, but two Chase HQ spin-offs. Quiz HQ is, well, it's a quiz game. This was released only in Japan. And it involves Nancy asking you some questions. I think my Japanese is a little rusty. The other spin-off game starring the boys is Crime City. This time, the boys leave the car behind and set out on foot to go and rescue the mayor. The gameplay is fast-paced and is really reminiscent of Rolling Thunder, another of my arcade favorites. '92 saw the release of Super Chase, which is the follow-up to SCI. This time, the action takes place from a first-person perspective as you try to make it through all 5 levels. It took 8 years, but we finally got a near arcade-perfect port of Chase HQ. Released back in 1996 and only in Japan, this was the only way you could get the arcade experience at home. In 1997, THQ brought us Ray Tracers for the PlayStation 1. Developed by THQ, this has since been confirmed as a follow-up in the Chase HQ series. The game takes place over 5 stages as you set out to take down those dastardly criminals. In 2006, Taito finally learned how to count to 2 with Chase HQ 2. Not only does your car feature brand new enhancements, but so does Nancy. Hubba hubba. The game is a great sequel to Chase HQ and takes place over 5 stages over various locations. Well, that about wraps up this video on Chase HQ. Sure, it's a short game and can be completed in just under 15 minutes, but here we are 30 years later and the game is still fun to play. If you're lucky enough to find this out in the wild, be sure to give it a whirl. It's always fun to ram a few bad guys off the road. Let's go, Mr. Driver.